Give him a minute, son. Max needs to think about his entire life before he plays. Won't let our love
There's something strange about modern musical biopics. They quietly stopped becoming biographies and started becoming concert simulations. Let's talk about it. Think about the biggest musical biopics of the last several years. Bohemian Rhapsody, Elvis, Michael. What do people mainly talk about after watching them? Usually not the writing, usually not the structure, usually not the psychology of the characters. They talk about performances. They say things like, that Live Aid scene was insane, or Elvis felt energetic, or it felt like being at a Michael Jackson concert. I don't think that's accidental. I think the genre itself has quietly changed, because older musical biopics were usually built like dramas. Modern musical biopics are increasingly built like cinematic recreations of live events. Let's go back to Walk the Line. That's a movie that is probably one of the clearest examples of the older approach. Yeah, it has music, it has Johnny Cash's performances, and yes, it has iconic Johnny Cash moments. But the movie is fundamentally interested in Johnny Cash as a person. His addictions, his self-destructive habits, his relationship with June, his childhood, his faith. The music supports his character arc, and the performances matter because of what they reveal emotionally. Now, compare that to Bohemian Rhapsody. That movie is engineered almost entirely around emotional peaks. That Live Aid sequence isn't just the ending, it's the destination. Everything in the movie is structured to get you to that final response. And the crazy part is, it works. Audiences loved it. But is it historically accurate? Absolutely not. Timelines were compressed, some characters are made up, and certain emotional beats are completely manufactured. But was it emotionally effective? Unfortunately, yeah. Because the movie delivered something stronger than historical precision. It delivered emotional spectacle. Now let's move to Exhibit B, Elvis. Elvis takes this even further. While the movie is a wild ride, it at least is consistent in its presentation. There's a scene early in the movie where Tom Hanks' Colonel Parker educates Austin Butler's Elvis about what draws people into carnivals. It's the spectacle. And taking cues from this imagery, the rest of the movie feels exactly like that, as it captures Colonel Tom Parker's mission to turn Elvis into the greatest attraction on Earth. And as the movie progresses, it's chaotic, hyper-stylized, overstimulating, almost dreamlike. And the director Baz Luhrmann shoots Elvis less like a human being and more like a cultural explosion. The editing is constantly moving, the music bleeds across scenes, and the camera rarely slows down. While the movie is asking who was Elvis Presley, its presentation is more, what did Elvis Presley feel like? Maybe the shift was inevitable, because musical biopics have a unique problem that other genres don't. You can remake a superhero, you can reinterpret Shakespeare a million times over, you can reboot Batman every 6 years. But as The Great Gatsby puts it,
you can't repeat the past.
Can't repeat the past.
No.
Why, of course you can.
and that's really the deeper question being asked here. No one alive today can go see Queen at Live Aid. No one can experience Elvis in his prime. Most people will never understand what Michael Jackson concerts actually felt like. Those moments are gone. So modern musical biopics attempt something really interesting. They try to digitally resurrect collective memory so that a brand new generation can rediscover an artist. But if that's your angle, it's disingenuous to say that your movie is introducing the audience to the man behind the music. That's like if a Capitol Records executive asked me, "Do you want to meet Frank Sinatra?" And I'm like, "Yes." And then he just leaves me in the lobby with a record player of Frank Sinatra's greatest hits. Sure, I may have gotten closer to Sinatra's music, but I haven't gotten any closer to understanding Sinatra himself. And there's this trade-off when movies start prioritizing experience over character. Because movies have a limited runtime, and every minute spent on recreating spectacles is a minute not spent understanding the person. which is why so many modern musical biopics leave audiences saying, that performance was incredible. But not necessarily, I feel like I really understand the artist better. And to be clear, I don't think this automatically makes these movies bad. In each of the films I just mentioned, Austin Butler, Rami Malek, and Jafar Jackson all brought phenomenal performances, basically embodying the artists they were portraying. My observation is that these biopics are trying to accomplish something entirely different than older biopics. Older biopics tried to interpret the artist, but the modern ones increasingly try to tackle too many things at once. Think of it like this triangle matrix. You can't break down the artist, recreate every iconic performance in their career, and showcase their creative process behind their songs. You can probably balance maybe one or two of these within a 2-hour runtime, but you can't have all three. And today, we live in an era obsessed with experiences. Things like immersive concerts, virtual reality, theme parks, and IRL content. People don't want just stories anymore. They want the closest thing to the actual thing. And I think this is where we're seeing a shift in biopics. The audience isn't just trying to watch history, we're trying to live in it. Obviously, this raises a weird question. If these movies start bending timelines, restructuring emotions, and reshaping reality in order to maximize feeling, does that damage artistic integrity? Maybe, but honestly, biopics have always manipulated reality for the sake of the story. That's nothing new. The difference now is what these manipulations are trying to achieve. Emotions versus truth. Let me give you some examples. Rocketman, 2019. Taron Egerton, who plays Elton John, stated at CinemaCon that the film would be a lot more of a visually stylized, epic musical fantasy rather than a traditional straightforward biopic. Not gonna lie, I watched the movie and I still don't really get what that means. Better Man, 2024. This biopic depicts musical artist Robbie Williams as a chimpanzee because in the director's words, we have deep empathy and compassion for animals, way more than we do for humans. So is he trying to say that because Robbie Williams is depicted as a chimpanzee that us as the audience will have a better chance empathizing with him as a human because we like animals? I'm sorry, I can't do that mental gymnastics. Let's move on. Piece by Piece, 2024. Pharrell's documentary film, which is stylized as a stop-motion brick film. In Pharrell's own words, the world is like that of a Lego set, which is building something from another pre-existing material. I gotta say, after watching Pharrell's movie, I felt more connected to the toy product that helped me become a filmmaker than I felt connected to Pharrell as a human being. All I could think about while I was watching his movie was of the other Lego movies that have been made. I don't think he was intending for his movie to be a 1.5-hour Lego commercial, but that was my experience. So, after all this, I want to be abundantly clear. As an artist myself, I have absolutely no problems with pushing the boundaries of art. Yes, we should experiment. Yes, we should flip a genre on its head. And yes, we should try to give audiences something that they've never seen before. But when we've literally lost the plot and turned musical biopics into disjointed montages, I think we've gone too far. It's absolutely important for modern audiences to experience the history-defining music that they had never had a chance to witness in person. When I watch a biopic, I want to see the story behind the story because that's always more interesting. But if Hollywood thinks it has to rely on compressed timelines, gimmicks, and historical inaccuracies to make these iconic artists even more interesting for a viewer, then they significantly underestimate the audience and the artists whose lives they're trying to depict. Now, I don't ever want my videos to be long-winded complaints, so let's shift gears and acknowledge when Hollywood actually does it right. So this may have flown under the radar for many of you, but Baz Luhrmann, director of the Elvis biopic, also worked on a documentary called Epic, Elvis Presley in Concert. And he spent years restoring lost footage of Elvis in his prime. Here's what Baz says about the documentary. I started on the Elvis biopic with love, but with the desire to find out the truth. During it, we found this footage and it was literally in salt mines, and it was rotting. And Raiders of the Lost Ark style, we kick in the door and there are 61 reels never before seen. So we rescued it, and the question was what to do with it. We also found this audio of Elvis just talking about his life. You never hear that. So we made one big decision. Most things about Elvis have other people talking about him. What if we got out of the way? What if he just tells his story and sings to you like in a kind of dream? And there's the green flag for me in what he said. What if we got out of the way? Sometimes there's nothing more powerful than hearing someone's story in their own words. And let me tell you, Epic is an epic movie to experience. And not only that, it is a fantastic companion piece to the Elvis biopic and gets you to appreciate Elvis's story all the more. So, in conclusion, Older musical biopics asked, who was this person? Modern musical biopics now ask, what did it feel like to be there? And which one is the better way to tell biopics? In my opinion, it's whichever one gets us out of the way and lets the artist speak their story in their own words. Long live the storytellers.